Mm. I agree with both of them, honestly, because I know first going, like, kind of just really figuring things out when I was like 17 before I entered college. Like most of the stereotypes you hear about is HIV is a death sentence, and you're going, like, you don't want to end up contracting this disease and you're going to die alone and sick. And so one of the things I really had to address personally was my bias that I had approaching the topic of HIV and discussing it, because it's not a death sentence. People get it every day, and then they're able to live happy and healthy, full lives. And so that was the first thing that I really had to address internally, is like, if I were to contract this virus, then what are going to be my next steps? And then also, what building off what Kwame says, making sure to have these hard conversations. Like, if I can't talk to somebody, if I'm going to be having sexual intercourse with someone, and I can't talk to you about if you've gotten tested and trust that you're going to be honest with me, then that means that we don't need to have anything to do with each other. So it's just making sure that we keep it balanced, and just realizing that it's not just our community, and that it's the bigger picture, and just keeping everyone safe as best we can.
Yeah, you all made some amazing points and stuff. And like you were saying, David, like, it's not a death sentence, and people are able to live long and healthy, thriving lives as long as you protect yourself. And I know with you, Quan, you talked about the practice of, being celibate. So whatever journey, whatever path people take, as long as it's comfortable for you, then that's all that matters. And the great thing about Thrive, we go out into the community and we do community testing. We have Thrive Thursdays, where when A&M was in school, we would have a person in health education go out to the school and do HIV testing, and just trying to make sure students know, like, you need to know your status. And then the great thing also about Thrive is we do in-house testing, as well as we offer PrEP. And sometimes people think, oh no, I don't know about PrEP and stuff. But the great thing about PrEP, we like to reference it as like the birth control for HIV. So for those who are not really knowledgeable or aware of exactly what PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. So it's a pill that you take one day to help with preventing or running the risk of contracting HIV. Now, with PrEP, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will run the risk of not being, contracting any other STIs, but as it relates to HIV, it helps with making sure that you're not exposed to the virus. And then also too, just because you are on PrEP, that doesn't necessarily mean or excuses you from using a contraceptive as it relates to a condom. So you just want to be proactive rather than being reactive on the back end.
Come on. I like that. That was good.
So if you know somebody, and this is not only too for just MSM, also to females out there, because you have to be very mindful. Like you was saying, somebody was saying, like, heterosexual contact. It's not just for the MSM community. Also, those who are in heterosexual relationships. PrEP is for anybody that just feels like, okay, I just want to take better measures and better precautions as it relates to my sexual health or your sexual health. So.
Right, and I'm very good point. So all I can say is kudos to everybody. But so Quan, Joppy, well, pretty much to anybody at this point. So when y'all were on campus, how did your school talk about HIV and other STIs and prevention? Like, what was that conversation like, being a student looking at the administrative and staff administration? There we
go. My school, Talladega, my undergrad first private HBCU in the state of Alabama. Talladega, they actually did not speak about HIV. We didn't have any gay or LGBTQ plus organizations, so it was never talked about, even around the day for us to get tested, HIV day. Nothing ever happened. Now, when I went to A&M, it was a different light. I can definitely say about the area of Huntsville, the community and the resources, y'all are very present on the campus. So Thrive, I actually have went to the truck there just to, kind of interact and see how it happens. But Alabama A&M, they do a good job about talking about it, educating people, and encouraging those to go get tested.
Okay.
Just to piggyback off of what Quan was saying, Alabama A&M does have a great representation. As I stated before, coming to college so young and openly gay, I knew that I was, that stigmatism was on my back that, oh, well, you're gay, so you don't catch an STD for having too much sex or having sex with men. I knew that was on my back. And I kind of like shut that world out. I was like, oh, I can't have sex. I'm scared because blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get STD. And, and even then, I still was like, scared to get tested. And I was like, oh, if you get tested, it's just automatic. That, like Devin said, it goes back to your bias. I was like, well, you get tested, but don't that mean you got one anyway? And, I had to break that. I had to grow up. I had to let my 16-year-old mindset go. And by the time I turned 18, that was the first time ever in my life that I got tested. And, I was like, oh, that's it. Like, that's how we do. And that's just that. And, it made me more comfortable with the idea of getting tested and recommend that other people get tested. Because I was like, well, if little old me can do it, you can do it. You can do it too. Your mama, your grandma, aunties, uncles.
Not your mama.
It was just more so pushing the idea of and normalizing getting tested because, especially in like the Black community and African American communities, we always look down on it, especially, and, it's always like, oh, getting tested means something wrong with you, or even looking down on going to doctors in general. So, it's like trying to regulate that into our daily lives and normalizing, go get tested. Go for the sake of your own health. Go get tested. Nobody's saying that because you go get tested, you just gonna pop up with an STI or something. No, go get tested. Make sure that you don't have anything, and continue to live your cleanly life. And if you do, get treated. If it's treatable, get treated. It's not the end of the world. Get tested. So everybody out there in this audience, stop being scared. Go get tested.
Absolutely. And with that, being tested and again, having those type of communications on the campus. And I know too, with having Thrive, the great thing about Thrive, again, we come there on Thursdays and we do HIV testing. And I mean, it's in the health and wellness clinic. So people come in there for whatever reasons. It can be a cough. It can be somebody bump their toe really hard. Whatever the case may be, people will not know. So if you just come into your discretion, get tested. Now, we get tested with any STI. That doesn't necessarily mean, okay, go out and hoo-hoo, ha-ha, but also to having those conversations. If you continue to explore within your sexuality, that's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that you are being safe. And also to having those conversations with administrators or faculty and staff. So with that, I have a question. And you all just answer truthfully. At your institutions, do you feel that faculty and staff or administrators have become desensitized to the LGBTQ plus community on campus? If so, how?
Period.
I would love to answer this. No, I don't. And I say that giving the track record and things that I know on the inside, things that I watch. Are we tolerated? Yes, because you're getting my money, so you guys are tolerating me. But if they were not getting my money, do I feel like I would be tolerated? Do I feel like I would be heard as much? No. And that was a hard pill to swallow because, at the end of the day, nobody's accepting of this little gay Black boy coming in here in one of these positions of power to show that he can sit at the table with us and have just as many ideas as we have and maybe even better. So, I had to swallow that, and I brought my own chair. So, it, like I said, it's tough. And yes, you will run into those faculty members that are, kind to you, and they are accepting and allies, and you get to make those great relationships. And sometimes, you know, you run into those that think your sexuality is a weakness. And, you know, just like I tell everybody, there's only one thing weak on me, and it's my ankles. So don't ever underestimate me. And, you know, it's like I said, it's just, it was that hard pill to swallow, and bringing my own chair to that table. You know, so you might have to put somebody off their seat if you got to, you know, apologize afterwards, but, you know, bump them out the way a little bit. But, you know, yeah, it's just that.
Anybody else feel like maybe on their institutions while they was in school that faculty, staff, administrators, or even, you know, the community, people were becoming desensitized to the LGBTQ plus community?
I know personally, I was just going to speak more to like the department that I graduated from, the communications department. Everyone there was super open and welcoming just because of, one, the subject matter that we were discussing required you to take in the different aspects of communication and like those backgrounds. And so I was really fortunate that in that department, we were constantly taking into account the LGBTQ experience, and I was able to like drive conversations and like bring it up and talk about it. But overall, I would say that they know we're here. They see us, engage with us, and really just like get comfortable of being around us. It's that they're not getting that comfortability quite yet, just because they don't know how to navigate conversations with us, or they haven't even opened up to a person who identifies as LGBTQ plus. And so I feel like that is kind of the thing that we gotta like work over, is like teaching people how to talk about it. It's not a difficult subject. If you meet someone who's LGBTQ plus, they're not going to mind talking to you about their experience, because it's their experience and it's their truth. So as long as you're there to like receive it is really the biggest thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so Ms. Debbie, this one is more so in your ballpark. Again, LGBTQ plus community suffers more from co-occurring disorders. For example, being diagnosed with depression, and then also misuse of substances. Have you seen this in your daily work? And if so, what can we do as a community to decrease the occurrences that are taking place?
I don't think I've really seen it in my daily work. I mean, certainly I've seen that combination, but as far as to say, I guess like percentages, you know, would I say in my work stats match up? That's a little harder to say, especially since you know, I have a small caseload, so that's a pretty small group to kind of, I guess, draw stats from in a way, but definitely co-occurring exists there in that situation, but you know, it does in others too. So I don't know that I would say I can confirm, you know, more that way, but I think it makes sense that it could be, because right there you've got someone dealing with being a double minority, basically, you know, so you've got that possibility of stigma from more than one direction. And then it seems that so often there's a stigma within a group as well, you know, because it seems that so often there's just not a very good comfort level with, you know, let's say being a Black gay male, right? It seems that just, you know, kind of an expectation, you know, culturally there that can be tough, you know. So I think there's, you know, that aspect is going to put, you know, some more challenges in there of like, you know, just dealing with, okay, over here I've got, you know, maybe some people who are going to treat me this way for this reason. Then I got another group of people who are going to be, you know, this way for another reason. Then over here, you know, some I can have a sense of connection with over on these areas, and, you know, feel not as accepted in another area. And I think too, there's particularly with men, and I think too, likely, and I'm saying this as a white person, which feels a little weird, but I think, you know, in general, with a lot of the Black community, being independent, not really spilling your business other places, so just to seek therapy, to open up and, talk about, the things that you're going through, and really kind of regardless of topic. I think, a lot of time that, is pretty difficult. And I think men, regardless, get a pretty heavy dose of that, of like, be stoic and, don't cry and don't open up and talk about your feelings. And so I think so often there are those pressures that, partly limit the ability, or will limit the receptivity to seeking help and the comfort level with maybe doing that. Or even like, can I let my best buddy know that I'm going to therapy and that's why I can't go hang out, so I think those are some factors. And I think also just in general, where there's less openness to just open up and vent to, say, a family member, a close friend. So, I mean, some people get to have that sometimes for minor stuff can be a little bit of a substitute for therapy, like, okay, at least I felt heard and I vented and got something off my chest. And if you don't tend to even do that, that's a whole lot of stuff that you carry around that you're holding inside. And I think that's a lot of pressure. So I think that, so often substance abuse can come from trying to avoid uncomfortable feelings. So I think it's really important to have some good outlets for, okay, if I'm feeling down, what can I do that's actually healthy that can, help perk my spirits up a little bit? Can I put on my favorite music? Can I do another thing that kind of helps me feel good instead of, turning to a substance? If I'm feeling, stressed out, instead of trying to numb out that feeling, what can I do? Can I do some relaxation techniques that calm me so I can face that? And if I've got a bunch of crap I'm dealing with from interacting with society for whatever reason, do I have a way, that I can, express that and deal with it? I think that's important. So I do think that, there definitely can be, quite a bit of overlap with co-occurring. And I'd say just kind of in general, I kind of like complex and complicated. I guess I like a challenge. So I think when I worked at Wellstone that I got selected sometimes for if someone new was coming in, for admission and needing to be assigned, their first therapist, if there was a lot going on with them, then, I think sometimes, Sheree may be able to verify that more, but I think sometimes, it's like, oh yeah, let's maybe assign them to Debbie. But yeah, because I do like, not just simple, don't bore me with the run-of-the-mill stuff, but so I've definitely had a lot of people who have, it's not just this person maybe has bipolar disorder or major depression, but okay, they've got a trauma history that they're dealing with, and there's, maybe one or two other things, and sometimes substance abuse, being in there, yeah, or at least in the past, not always a current, but that too.
Very true. And then even just another plug to throw out there, because we're just going to throw a lot of plugs throughout this webinar. Thrive does also have a program called the DIMM that, of course, does help out with the co-occurring disorder. So anybody that's watching, if you are looking for treatment, feel free to give us a call at Thrive Alabama.
That sounds great. Can you tell me a little more on the DIMM?
So I actually just came from that department in behavioral health. I was the community liaison for the DIMM program. So what the program was, because it has changed since I've been over, it's for minority men and women that pretty much are just dealing with the co-occurring disorders, whether it be depression, anxiety, or anything. And then, of course, if they are misusing substances. So it's a 14-week program. With COVID going on, I don't know how they're running it now because I was out of the department since this has taken place. But then what it will typically look like, you'll meet 3 nights a week for 3 hours, and you'll go through a module that just describes and goes through your daily emotions, life experiences, life changes, and pretty much, of course, tells you how to focus your energy on life compared to the misuse of any substance. So it was very enlightening, and it honestly changed my perspective in life being in that department, because I was a person who was like, okay, if you want to stop using, just stop. It's not that hard. But going into that program, well, working in that program, it was eye-opening. Like literally my third day working at Thrive, we do a commencement ceremony for for the people who are leaving. And my third day was a commencement ceremony, and I was literally in tears, and I'm not the person to cry. And it was just so moving and touching, and I was like, okay, it's gonna teach me something. I'm just not ready for it, but it's a great program. So of course, shout out to old boss Donna Harris. She is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And David Battle, who was the program coordinator at the Talladega.
So, I mean, Brandon, you provided a lot of information about the den, and then Miss Debbie, you talked about, having those conversations and, not having those conversations, but then also too not having those conversations. And I know with the den, they provide that community. And sometimes you don't feel like you have that community from loved ones, whether it be parents, whether it be guardians, especially when it comes to actually telling the world, telling your family that, hey, this is who I am, this is my identity. So with that, anybody can answer this question as it relates to the students. Megan, the question that we have is, what advice would you give those who are coming out to their loved ones and their guardians or parents?
I would love to answer this if I may. I would tell people who are thinking about doing that to make sure that it's something that they want to do. I did it because I was honestly tired of holding it in. It was killing me from the inside. So I didn't really do it to tell them, but I did it for my sake, my mental stability, all of that. I say be ready. Realize that it will come with some challenges. Have a plan B, and be prepared for the backlash, and know that it won't always be a negative response. You do have some family and friends that'll take you in and love you. You might have a positive outcome, but definitely be ready. Do not let anyone else push you out of the closet or tell you, hey, you need to do this and go do that. Be ready and be confident in whatever you do decide to present to the world.
That was deep.
Building off of that a little bit, I always say one thing I had to realize was patience and grace with the coming out experience, because coming out to my mom, it took a couple times first, just quite like to really get on the same page. And it was really just realizing that I lived with this secret for so long, and I was able to come to terms with it and like understand myself better. But I'm telling my mother, who thought she knew me and is really just learning this whole nother side of me. So just giving her that patience and that grace to really open up to the idea and just realize what's going on. But by no means am I saying to accept homophobia, biphobia, or transphobia, because if they don't recognize you as a person or a human being, then they don't need to be in your life. But just giving those people that are close to you, that space to really understand. Because with understanding comes growth, and both of y'all's relationships will just like really change and go for the better. But yeah, but also make sure you're staying safe. Do what's best for you. So, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just to piggyback off of what they were saying, I definitely think time and comfortability is a huge part in it. Just for the simple fact that you can't put an age limit on when somebody can come out.
Yeah.
You can't say what's too young, what's too old. And I do think that for those of you who are watching, or even for those of us on this panel, that we are aware of how the outside world is, and I think it's kind of up to us to help bring out the next, person that we know who may be and who may be closeted at this moment in time, you know, I think it would be it would be us doing our duty to provide them that safe haven, because we all know what it feels like to be shunned. And even if you don't know exactly what it feels like, you've watched it. We've all watched it. Even though I was watching, you know, even though I was watching the panel, we've all watched it. So I feel like, you know, it is us doing being humans, having the human decency to actually, you know, provide that safeness for someone. Because like everybody on the panel has been saying, you know, everybody's not accepting. And some of us live in places where it's looked highly down upon for you to be gay. And even like Miss Debbie said, especially for those of us who are African American, it is damn sure, excuse me for saying it, but that was necessary. It is damn sure looked down upon us to be gay. Like I always tell people, as a Black man, we have 3 strikes against us. As a Black man, I have 3 strikes. I'm a man, I'm a Black man, and I'm an openly gay Black man. So the word is always out to get me. And it's heartbreaking to know that, you know, I got younger brothers that may not be biological brothers, but, you know, in the gay community, I have younger brothers that are coming up, and to know that they may have to deal with the same thing that I've been dealing with is treacherous. It's disappointing. It's disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to them, and it's disrespectful to people who came before us. Because at this point in your life, it should be no reason that you are still worried about what somebody else is doing with their sexuality, you know? And I say that all the time. Like, it's no reason that somebody in this world cannot live being their happy gay self, as I like to say. It's literally, there's no legit excuse. You can't bring me a Bible scripture. You can't bring me your mama said this, your daddy said this. There's no logical explanation. There's no bone in your body, no muscle, no nerve, no vein or artery that is telling you that this is not how life should be. So, you know, be that safe haven for those people that are scared to come out, and allow them that time to find themselves and allow them to ask you questions and things of that nature. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing too, just on a piece of advice? Don't be afraid to experiment. And when I say experiment, like, coming out and living an openly gay life is completely different when you're closeted. So when I first came out, I didn't know what kind of gay boy that I was. I didn't know if I was more of the flamboyant, more of the kind of chill. So I would play in women's clothing. I would wear makeup. I love purse, you know, but I still would go outside and hang with the guys, is what I say. So, you know, when you come out, do not be afraid to experiment, because you don't want to get later down in life and maybe you're one of those people who wanted to transition, you know. So figure out who you truly are after you come out as well, because that's a whole nother ball game, especially when you get into the gay scene and you get to go out and you see different things and you see someone who you might like, and they fit you. So experiment, have fun.
Thank y'all so much for the advice, especially those viewers who are watching and listening. And then also too, for the heterosexual counterparts, like, just make sure you be receptive, make sure you be open-minded. Everybody has their struggles, whether it's, you know, sexuality, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's the fact that my boyfriend left me 2 days ago. Now I'm, you know, drinking, whatever the case may be. So just make sure you be open-minded, and you definitely be receptive to people's lives, because you don't know what people are dealing with and what people are going through. And at the end of the day, everybody is deserving and needs love. So to the panelists, just want to put this in there before we continue. You are valued. You are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and thank you so much for just being strong and being that torch to pass down to somebody else, for them to be able to come out and for them to be able to live in their truth.
You're so deep. All right, so I'm just gonna, I think this is the last question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one actually is gonna be thrown to Megan. I've heard it's been stated that individuals do not see themselves being represented within Rocket City Pride. Is Rocket City Pride aware of this? And if so, how are they changing this narrative?
So I think we are, as a board, aware that we don't have as much involvement as we would like from the community. And we're trying to increase involvement. So that's why on our webpage, we do have a whole volunteer section where you can, say if you want to be on a committee or if you want to volunteer with events. And we really do want to get involved with, our community members. We want them to feel like their voices are heard in what we're doing. So, we're planning all these events and doing all these things for the community, but at the same time, we want to have community input to know exactly how to proceed. So one thing we were doing before COVID started was trying to do one event per month to try to let the community come out and kind of engage with us as a board, and then also get, kind of bounce ideas back and forth too. But with COVID, that's kind of come to a halt for now. So eventually we'll pick back up on doing our monthly events, but, there are some things coming up virtually too this month that you can check out. But getting involved, I think that's really important if we can involve more people in the community. So if you are thinking about wanting to join up and do some things with Rocket City Pride, we'd love to have you. I could use some help on my committee. So, if that's something you want to do, if you're into making graphics and doing things, tech savvy kind of things like that, let me know. But, we're definitely looking for more community involvement and feedback. So anything you have, you can always private message us through the Facebook page, or you can email us at our info email, which is also on the Facebook page. So check that out. And we would love to have you.
Maybe you already have somebody that said that they could help with graphics. See, this is what
I see that. Yeah.
And to piggyback a little bit off of Megan, so those of you who are watching, I'm actually the director of Rocket City Pride as well, as an outreach specialist at Thrive Alabama. So I got a lot of community involvement in my life right now. And one thing I can say is, if you don't see yourself, of course, as Megan stated, come join us. We only can do so much with what we know. I do wish we honestly did have a personal trans experience on our board, so that way it does allow us to reach out more to that community. But not saying that we're not trying, because again, it was stated that we have a trans mixer coming up in October. But again, we only are able to do as much as we know. So, and this is just anything in life. If you don't see that you're being represented in some shape, form, or capacity, see how you can get involved to make that change. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. So we kind of threw a curveball in here. So this is going to be to the panelists and, of course, the viewers as well. We're going to show a video that just kind of spoke a lot of volumes to us as people. So give us one moment. We're going to share our screen and we're going to show the video, and we're going to ask for your feedback about hearing it.
All right. Can everybody see it? Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we see it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I stopped looking for acceptance when I actually found myself and understood myself. And I realized that my life is not for someone else to accept. See, we look at these things like acceptance and tolerance, and we don't realize how degrading it is. You're already putting yourself in a pedestal above another human being, and we are supposed to be equal. So therefore, I don't need you to accept me. I may want you to understand me, but as far as you accepting me, that just means that I believe that you are greater than I am, or I believe that you have some kind of privilege or authority over my life. And no way. I stopped looking for acceptance.
All right. So of course, by hearing that, how does that make you feel? Just as a person, somebody in the LGBTQ plus community, as an educator, if they're out there, therapist, community involvement, person who's involved in community, student, what are y'all's thoughts?
I personally agree with that statement, because that's kind of the attitude that I have. Once you find, I do believe that once you find yourself and you are comfortable with yourself, you're not going to care what everybody else thinks and what makes everybody else happy. Because if that does not align with the vision of happiness that you see, then it's going to be nothing to you. Or at least that's how I look at it. You know, I can grow up and I can have somebody else, you know, in my ear like, oh, being gay is wrong, being gay is wrong. But if being gay makes me happy, baby, I don't care what you're trying to say. You know, and if, you know, yeah, like I just wholeheartedly agree with that statement. That was a masterpiece.
I personally love that video. Like you said, acceptance. When I decided to come out, you know, I stopped caring about acceptance. You know, I didn't realize how confident that just being gay could really make you. It really makes you a stronger person, just because of everything that you have to kind of swallow and still just kind of move. I love that video and I live for her. So that was a great touch.
Yes, I mean, honestly, she's one of my favorite actresses in Pose. So I was here for this whole entire interview. But honestly, I can just say, yeah, it's true. It's because once you start not caring about what other people think, you just really open yourself up to so much more. And then that's where you get more comfortable experimenting, like Quan was saying earlier. Like, you figure out what you really like, and you're not worried about what other people's perspective is on you. You continue to treat everyone the same, but you're just over here living your life. You're living your truth. You're walking in your shoes, because no one else can walk for you. No one else can talk for you. And I know my mom always told me growing up, you were brought into this world by yourself, and you're going to leave by yourself. So you need to get comfortable being by yourself. So it's just really, yes, that's a true statement. Facts.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to care and share before we kind of wrap things up about the video? Does anybody have any questions that they want to pose? I know there are some questions that have been in the chat that have been answered, but there was one particular question that I wanted to ask right quick. And the question was, what can students of the institution HBCU do respectfully and tactfully, if possible, as an incentive to motivate administration that may not be receptive of the LGBTQ plus community to understand that they deserve the same respect and access as their peers and counterparts?
Coming from an HBCU, maybe bring your seat to that table. Bring your seat to that table, because they can ignore you while you're trying to get a seat, and they can push you out the way to get to that seat. But if you bring your own chair, what they gonna do with it? Respectfully and tactfully. Ooh, this might tarnish my image, but you can take the route that I've been taking. So I have called myself getting heavily involved on my campus, so that way, you know, I can maneuver into offices and meet with people that I need to meet with, that are making these heavy decisions for us. So they see my presence, they hear my voice, and they know that they're gonna continue to hear me until something is done. So even like, you know, I love to be like, oh, well, yeah, you know, having the president of my university know my name. So I feel comfortable enough to the point where I can go to him. And I've had different conversations with him, you know, to say, I'm like, hey, sometimes I don't feel accepted on this campus. So what are y'all working on? What can we do as a unit to get things done, you know? And even going to my vice president, Dr. Crosby, you know, just being able to work with them, and even being able to work under student activities and getting into those positions and making those partnerships to the point where, like I said, they can ignore you trying to get one of their seats at their table, but they cannot ignore you bringing your own chair. And that's exactly what I did. So now I'm sitting at these tables with them, and they have no choice but to hear me. My mom always said, you know, you fight for what you believe in, and you don't, and like I said in my quote, you do not stop fighting. You fight until you are heard. You are here, and they will respect you. You demand respect. Like I tell people, you walk in that room and you command that attention. You demand that respect. I don't have to say much when I walk into a room. Everybody knows that if I'm in a room in a certain way, we mean business. and something's gonna get accomplished. We're not leaving till something happens. So, you know, respectfully and tactfully, you don't have to come in there and, you know, be like, oh, I don't feel represented. I want something done now. No, you know, I come in there and I let them know, like, hey, I see this happening on campus. I see this happening. I see this happening. But what about for this student? What about for students like myself? What are we doing for students like myself? And like I always, unfortunately, he no longer works here, but our previous director of the Health and Counseling Center, Mr. Micah, I always thank him because he helped me use my voice. He is one of the best partnerships I've ever made on the campus of Alabama A&M University. He helped me be more confident in myself and be more confident in knowing that they have to respect me if I come in there respectful with them to do business. They have to respect me. They don't have a choice, because if I'm not disrespecting you, you're going to look bad disrespecting me. And I take that with me everywhere I go, because like I said, when I brung my chair to this table, I ain't bring my chair swinging it around like, oh, y'all gonna let me here? I brung my chair. I sat right there. Now let's talk business. And, you know, things get done.
Thank you for that, Jaffe. So at this present time, did anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns that we wanted to get out the way before we close out? Again, if you do, feel free to unmute yourself so that way you can speak.
I have a question. I didn't hear us talk about this, and I think it's a big thing, especially at HBCUs, fraternities and sororities. A lot of people don't talk about that, so I want to hear everyone's opinions and just thoughts about that, because that's a big thing at HBCU life.
So when you talk about sororities and fraternities, are you talking about like the acceptance, or what specifically are you talking about?
Yeah, the acceptance. I'm sorry for not making that clear, but yes, the acceptance within the LGBTQ plus community or members.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody that is on the panel, just from my understanding, crossed. So if you know, Jock, if you want to.
Thank you for putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
No, but being a spring 2020 initiate of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, I can say that it's so funny to watch and, you know, to read and look. Let me not say funny, it's not disrespectful. It's eye-opening. And, you know, because when watching from the outside in, it's like, oh, they're not gonna accept you because you gay. And, you know, I got so much backlash. And it wasn't from the people that I thought it was gonna be from. I thought, oh, I'm gonna go to this interest meeting and they gonna point out the fact that I'm gay, and this is gonna be it for me. That's gonna be it. So I doubted it. And I was like, oh, well, forget it. I'm not even gonna waste my time, I'm not gonna waste my money trying to do none of that. And, you know, it was the exact opposite, actually, for me, my experience. They were surprisingly welcoming. I haven't had any hatred against me. I haven't been treated any differently than my other line brothers. If anything, I was up to a little more. Oops. You know, it was a little hard though, because I kept the whole time, I was like, oh, they gonna find out. Because, you know, I didn't say like, oh, I wasn't in there like, yeah, I don't wear like a big t-shirt. I don't just go around like, oh yeah, I'm gay. You know, I just be like, oh, okay. You know, I don't look at it as something that I need to tell everybody. I just be like, oh, people already know. People automatically don't know. They gonna see me. They gonna know. You know, I just be like, okay, whatever. So I was like, oh, well, I guess they know I'm gay and blah, 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 you know, whatever the case may be. And I used to, like, one of my line brothers was always like, how does it feel having to hide it? And I was like, I was like, I'm hiding it. What you mean? I was like, what am I hiding? I was like, I'm like, hiding what? We do the same things, you know? What are you talking about? And he was like, oh,